Okay, jumping right in, we're going to take an Imperial Knight here, and this Chaos Knight conversion kit I got off Etsy. Last time I checked, it's not available anymore, but there's so many other products that you can find on there to jazz up your Imperial Knight, turn them into a Chaos Knight, and take it from there. I'm planning also on making this a kit bash, just using some parts from other kits that I've got. Just some remnants of pieces that I won't be using anymore, but yeah, he's gonna be for the Death Guard / Nurgle army. Yeah, this is a kit that I've been wanting to do for such a long time, and it just kept on getting put on the back burner because it's gonna be so involved. Here's a couple of the sprues from the extra pieces I have. There's parts of my son's Great Unclean one. They give you parts to make a different version of them. So we've got all those that we can play with. There's also, let's see, parts from Chaos Rhino right there. And yeah, mainly going to be using some of those spikes and those, I want to use those hooks as well. I want to hang some rusty chains off of those. And what you don't see here is that there's also a fetid bloat drone. There's couple guns off there that I'm going to use, a few pieces here and there, just extra ones that we didn't use with the initial build. But this is one of those kits where it's like, it's not a cheap kit. I think I got this with a gift card that I got from work. Took away most of the initial costs. I just had to pay the difference. But they're not cheap kits. They're well over $120 now, and you get that feeling like you want to do it, you have an idea in your mind's eye of how you want it to look, but you're so afraid to start working on it because you don't think you're going to make it look like it should, or you think you might screw it up, and that's a lot of money to be screwing up there. But you just got to dive in and start working on it. A couple little gotchas I found that I'm not going to really worry about, but I fixed those along the way. And yeah, just had so much fun with this kit. I've got a second one that I don't know if I just if I'm going to do it as another Nurgle Knight or just do it as an Imperial Knight, but so much fun to work on, and I can't wait to get into the second one. So the fun part about these conversions is that the more you work on them, the more ideas you get along the way. And there were a couple times where I thought I'd finish something, and then I look at another piece, I'm like, wait a second, this would look pretty cool if I did this. And I just kept on adding and adding, and next thing I know, I got to do this in 2 parts because this would be a very long video after I get done editing the whole thing. Now, I did magnetize the entire knight. I'm not going to go into detail on what sizes, this, that, and the other, but I decided to magnetize it more for transportation purposes than like changing out loadouts, which I'm sure I could do along the way, but I just wanted to make sure that if I want to take this somewhere, I could just take it apart easily and reassemble it quickly whenever I get to a game. Okay, and like I mentioned earlier, the Chaos Knight conversion kit, I found out on Etsy. When I went back to look for it later on for the purposes of the video, it was unavailable, but you can still find a lot of different conversion kits. You can find them on some of the different 3D printing sites. A lot of really cool conversion kits that you can 3D print yourself or pay to have somebody else do it. And then even if you don't have any of these conversion parts, later on in the video I take some green stuff and I actually add it to a couple of the existing Imperial Knight parts. Shaky camera there. And yeah, just kind of sculpt my own parts. Now, taking liquid green stuff here, I just wanted to experiment with this. It's the first time I've actually used the liquid green stuff version. Wanted to put it on the existing shoulder pauldron because I read somewhere a long time ago that you get a better adherence with the regular green stuff if you put some liquid green stuff on first and use that as your base. Now, I'm not sure if that's BS or not. I couldn't really tell you either way because all the regular green stuff that I had, I just ended up holding down with super glue, but we'll see. And then there's those hooks that I decided to put on there and some bad mold lines there, but those are going to be the ones that you never see, so didn't even worry about those. Moving on to some parts from the Great Unclean One. I like these branches that were sticking out of the skin, so I decided I wanted to put those onto the knight. Add them onto the shoulder pauldron there. So just snip those off of there, and then just cut away all the stuff that I don't need. A few parts from those I use later on. There you go. My nippers are pretty dirty. And then figuring out where I'm going to put them. And then that'll just be held down with super glue and green stuff. Now with the cannon, I did magnetize this as well. So what I did was I took some plastic rod, cut it to size, stuffed it in there, and you can see all the plastic shavings on my fingers. I just cut that plastic rod with the bone saw, but just glue that in place. And I think I've got there's the kicker there. I never spray the kicker. I always take the lid off and just use the tube that it comes with. And then glue a magnet onto the end of it. And we're all set. Go ahead and get some kicker in there just to hold it in place. And if you squeeze down on the trigger on the kicker, it pushes that just enough out for what you need. I don't know, I sprayed it once on something and it got all over my hands. It just has this really strange feeling. Now, just work on the crotch bell there for a second. And then I decided I'm going to go ahead and put some more chains on put some chains on the cannon. So just figure out where I'm going to start drilling some holes. And then just using my little Tamiya hand drill, I'm going to get those taken care of. Yeah, a lot of these pieces that I ended up adding on to the knight were pinned on. I just didn't want to just glue them and risk having them fall off if I moved it the wrong way or if it fell over. So yeah, I just went ahead and super glued those pieces of paper clip in there and made it a little bit stronger. Now for the cannon, I just took some chain, wrapped it around there. I do a couple different spots on the model before it's done with, but yep, that's the chain that you get with the Chaos Rhino kit as well. So I just want to add that on there, and I do trim down that one piece of paper clip before it goes in, just because you could see it from the inside or from the front of the cannon. So it's like I'm gonna have some corrosion in there as well, so I just want to make sure that you don't see it, but unless you're like really looking for it, you're not going to see it. And then just using some super glue gel, pop those in there, a little bit of activator, and they're not going anywhere. And you can see all the pieces on the desk that I'm going to be working with. Yeah, I can't wait to paint that chain up, because once it's painted up and rusted, it should look really cool. There we go. And then when painting it, I'll get some typhus corrosion on there, some dirty down rust. Yeah, that's gonna be a whole video all to itself for painting. So while I'm working on this, I just want to take a couple seconds to say, if you like the video, hit that thumbs up. If you're not subscribed already, please consider it. I'm still having a great time with this channel, and I've got so many projects coming up. And there was a little bit of a lull at the beginning of the year. I had some health issues, but taking care of that, and we're ready to keep moving. Okay, then that's assembling the cannon there. I think after the paint gets dried, once I start painting that chain, it's not gonna hang freely like that. It'll be more static, but I'm good with that. Okay, nothing says chaos like a big old crotch bell, And this one's got the Nurgle logo on there because it came from the Great Unclean One set. Just snipping off the paper clip there so I can pin it onto the underside. Gonna take the Tamiya hand drill. And just get some super glue gel on there. Yeah, it looks sloppy. There's a lot on there, but there's a little bit of real estate that I want to make sure that gets completely glued in place too. Then off camera, I hit it with some accelerator, and there you go. That should look pretty cool painted up with some verdigris too. Alright, so I decided to take a bullet-tipped sanding stone on my Dremel and just add a few pieces of battle damage there, maybe some larger impact holes. The front of the piece already has a few pock marks in there, but I just wanted to add to it a little bit, give it a little bit more damage, and that's by doing that I can actually do a little bit more weathering and make it look pretty cool. So there's a lot of detail as is, but I just wanted to add more to it. I figured that these Chaos Knights, they were originally regular Imperial Knights, so there's probably damage from then, and I don't think Chaos Knights really take care of themselves to the point where they're putting new panels on. They're just going to work with what they got. So I did it on the leg plates, the one shoulder pauldron that I decided to use. Just put some scratches in there, some pock marks. And this bullet sander, that's makes it so much easier, but you have to wear some sort of a mask with it, so those are resin parts. Put a little bit here and there. Just going to add to the final piece. And I had a pretty cool idea when I was working on the other parts that it's Nurgle, so you think of disease, decay, corrosion, so let's take that little bullet tip sander and give some corroded areas to that cannon. And I think after I get done with this, when before I paint it, I'll put some typhus corrosion on there and make it look really nasty. Make it rusty and corroded, and almost like you'd be afraid to fire this thing because the whole barrel might just blow out on you. But I think it's going to look really cool after it's all finished. Yep, get all those little pock marks and rust spots. And looking back now as I'm recording this, I'm so glad I didn't slip and hit that actual chain, because that would have been a huge mess. Or it might have just bounced off on it. You never know. But yeah, I think this is really going to add to the final piece. Yep, gotta get some on the tip too. There we go. Loving it. Here's green stuff. Okay, so the green stuff I'm using here, it's in strips. I've heard a lot of modelers say that they don't like using this kind because the spot where the two different colors meet tends to start curing itself. I've never had that problem, but I also have a different another type of green stuff where it's just two separate rolls, one with the yellowish green and one with the blue. But like I said, I've never had that problem. There's some more spikes on the other pauldron. Want to make it all spiky, so it looks pretty good. And then just adding a little bit more texture to the other side. I've got one of those branches sticking out there, and I'm just going to start adding green stuff to it to hold it in place, and then I'll start sculpting some pustules in there and just make it look all disgusting. Yeah, it's a Nurgle, so you got to do that. And just starting off with some bits and pieces there, and then I'm just taking a fist from a Great Unclean One, using the texture on the fingers and the texture on the hand to add a little bit more interesting spots on there. Okay, I got the other branch in there. And then after it's mixed together, you want to let it sit for about a half hour, 45 minutes to let it start to cure and set. If you don't do that, it's going to be really, really sticky. It's going to stick to your hands, your gloves, your tools. Once you're able to work with it, it's still going to have a little bit of tackiness, but you can get rid of that by using water, or if you have some mineral oil, and that'll keep it from pulling back when you put it on the piece or start sculpting with it. You get the pustules in there, one big one right there, and I'm just going to start adding some little blobs there. I was deciding whether or not to use the little half pearls that I have, but I figured some of these pustules aren't going to be perfectly round, so let's have a little bit of fun with them. And then I added a chain, put between the branches there. And after I put the chain on, I thought maybe it looked pretty cool with some skulls hanging off it. I had such a hard time trying to keep them to stay on there and everything, like keep everything straight while I was trying to put the skulls on. If you see them in the final pictures, guess what? I made it work. But I tried 3 times and yeah, it just wasn't working for me. But that's okay though, because I'll still have a nice rusty chain hanging in between those branches. Okay, adding more spikes, this time to the top-mounted missile launcher. I just cut these off the Chaos Rhino sprue and trimmed the bases down a little bit, and just using a little bit of Tamiya extra thin, just got them on there. And it may look a little rough right now, but I'm gonna eventually take some green stuff and put a little border around that and smooth it out a little bit. And not too much. You still want it to look like it's nice and Nurgly and chaosy and all that. There we go. Just having fun with this. And this is, like I said, about just continuously starting to add things to it. I decided that I wanted a few more skulls on it, and you don't usually see a whole lot of skulls with Nurgle stuff, but I couldn't help myself with this one. So I just decided to put one on this side and the other one on the other side there. And I like the way the horns are pointing on each side. Okay, now this is the Green Stuff World roll maker, useful for tubes, tentacles, and wires. Although they all come out looking like worms or cables, but it'll get the job done. Again, this is after letting it sit for about 45 minutes, so it's not too sticky. Now, that piece right there, that's the crotch piece from the original kit, with some green stuff flattened out over the top of it, and we're just going to add some texture using that arm from the Great Unclean One. Make it look all Nurgly. Just trim that off after it starts to harden up. Yeah, I decided I wanted to keep that little crotch tabard, and you got the bell behind it, so it kind of hides the joint on there. But yeah, that's kind of what I was looking for. And then I decided I wanted to do the Nurgle symbol with skulls. So we're going to see how that turns out. As long as it's in camera. Okay, there's one skull there. And I might actually add some spikes to that as well, just to make it look more like the symbol. Yeah, the Citadel Skulls box is probably one of the best kits you can get for anything 40k related, and even for Age of Sigmar. I use a lot of skulls. And this was one of the pieces that I hadn't planned on originally, but like I said, when you're customizing these things and kit bashing, you just start coming up with all these different ideas as you're completing the kit. And it's just like, okay, well, this would be cool if I did this, or oh, I got room to add this. And next thing you know, you're like way ahead of what you originally planned on. Okay, and then here's just adding some green stuff to the bases of those spikes. It's not the neatest, but I smooth it out and just kind of blend it in with that with the missile launcher. Okay, and then there's the hood that goes over the head. Same deal, a little bit of green stuff flattened out, placed over the hood, and then just added texture. And look at this guy, he's getting some chains too. Adding a little more chains. Decided to use those hooks that I put on in the beginning and add some real chain to it. That face is just blue tacked on for now. And I just hit it with the super glue, the thin super glue. That's just cheap stuff from the dollar store. And a little bit of accelerator there. You can see on that shield a little bit of the super glue and the activator dripped. So that should work out pretty cool for being Nurgle. Some orc skulls there. And then I eventually add a second one. Pretty cool. I'm loving this thing already. I cannot wait to start painting it. And then there he is on my messy work table. Looking good. So much fun building this. And like I said, I cannot wait until the next video where I get to paint them. So I hope you come back for part 2, because that's when the fun begins. The paint job is going to be so much fun to do on this big guy. I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope to see you then. Hey, if you liked the video, check out the playlist on the left and be sure to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.